Shalom, and so nice to be here, and I always enjoy to be in Israel, and this is an innovation startup country I'd really love, and then thank you Shankar and Samsung to invite me to be a speaker here, and Samsung have a very deep relationship and now with Cadence and Warden and now in multiple areas that we are deep partnership with. And I really treasure the relationship we have with Samsung. Today, my topic is very much in the AI, machine learning, big data, and then how can be benefit to all of us. And so I'm going to speak on behalf of two roles I have. One, that I'm the CEO of Cadence Design. And how many are you using my Cadence tool or IP? Quite a lot here. So thank you so much. And then the other part is also I'm the chairman of Warden International that I helped started and since '84. So I've been in the venture business for 35 years. So I have been around for a long time. And so a couple of things I want to share with you. Being in the design phase, I see a lot of changes. And what really excited me about, I think Shankar talked about the 7 wave. And I see multiple waves. If you are a server, you want to make sure that there's a couple of waves work on your benefit. And I see a couple of big drivers that happen at the same time, and that get me excited about. So one is basically the 5G, and it's starting to deploy now globally. It's a massive, massive deployment. The speed and latency improve a lot, and so I'm really focused on the RF antenna side, and that is really the difficult part. And so being an engineer, I was looking for something that are disruptive and how can we improve it. And then the other part is very big is AI machine learning. I'm going to touch on a lot on today's topics. And then the other part is the whole industrial 4.0 is really taking off. There's a lot of data collected, and also the cloud data center. And then, frankly speaking, the data, the massive data, the creation, and I want to talk about how the data are going to work together. So first of all, you have to create it, and then now you have to process it, and then you transmit, and then store it. And so this whole cycle is a lot of content inside, and I will talk about in more detail. So first of all, the data is explosive. And I think Shankar talked about multiple data that created, either in the Twitter or the Instagram, and then or WeChat in China, and so that volume is tremendous. But frankly speaking, video is a lot of data, and so imagine not just a cell phone you created, and then also the autonomous driving. There's going to be a lot of data and per second, and then the video, across all the different applications, and it's very explosive. And to be candid with you today, only 2 or 3% of the data collected being analyzed and utilized. So it's a lot of data is not fully utilized, and that's where it's become very, very important to look at the AI machine learning, how to drive that, analyze, and make you a better decision making, and also how to help in some of the vertical market that you're going after. Depend on who you talk to, the data is a huge application to the vertical markets, and some people are talking about 40 trillion applications. And I will touch on a little bit about some of the application, not just a silicon, and also some of the banking, insurance, medical, and transportation across the board. So it's a very, very big impact. Just look at the silicon alone. You can see I'm excited about the AI machine learning going to drive a lot of semiconductor growth. And some people predict the next couple of years, it can be about $34 billion of semiconductor content in terms of AI machine learning. AI machine learning, I just want to elaborate a few things. First of all, there's a training part, there's an inference part. The training part tends to be more into the cloud data center application, and then the edge and IoT related, there will be more inference in terms of information you collect, and you make some decision. And you can tell the training is important. The inference is going to be even bigger, the TAM market. So there's something that, just pay attention to it. And then some of the silicon development focus on inference, some of the application into the training. And so they have different applications. One thing that I'm very, very excited about is the edge and using the AI for the Industry 4.0. And a lot of data that you collect, you don't want to send it to the cloud. The latency is too slow, and the impact, it may not be as impactful. And so there's a lot of data that you collect at the edge. You want to right away able to apply and process it. And so to me, if you look closely on the IoT, the industrial IoT, that is the red color, and that's where the fast growing will be. And a lot of this big industrial group are starting to realize that some of the data they collect, they haven't even utilized it. And that can be important application opportunity for the VC guy and also for business side. And then the other part is, the very good friend of mine, Masa, running SoftBank, is a 35 years friend of mine, and he's heavily investing in robots. And he believes that a lot of industrial application, robots going to play a very big role in that. And then those robots going to be collecting a lot of data, and then how you're going to utilize that, and rather than send everything to the cloud. So the edge computing going to be a huge area of investment, and that's something that I pay a lot of attention, and I'm heavily investing in it. The next thing I want to talk about is the data center and cloud infrastructure. And a couple of slides I kind of put down here. One is the whole cloud infrastructure really driving a lot of massive data and how to processing that. And so silicon photonics and going to be very important. And then the other part is if you look at the middle of the chart, and it becomes shorter and shorter time in terms of scaling up in the speed. So the hyperscale, in terms of 100 gig, now is 400 gig. And then I've been talking to a couple of leaders, and I'm looking at some of the area to invest to bring it up to 800 gig and beyond. And that's something that infrastructure needed to catch up with all the data that need to be processed. And then the other part is, clearly the high-speed connectivity become very critical. The 112 gig SerDes is very important. And then how to scale up the network, to 12.8, and 25.6, and 51.2 terabit per second switches. And that's something that hyperscale guys are demanding, and because they need to address that workload, that's something that is really exciting to invest in. And the AI machine learning is not just the silicon and for the processing. There's a couple of sea change happening in the industry. I think all of you know CPU and GPU, general purpose. But I think with the AI machine learning application, and then I basically highlight, it's going to be a more, I call it the workload-specific processing, or we call it domain-specific processing. And so it depends on different application. You need to be able to optimize, tailor for the requirement. And some of them need very low power, and some of them need to be really optimized for some specific performance they're looking for. So you're going to, over time, the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you're going to see here and more in terms of programmability, in terms of domain-specific processing. There's a lot of companies are really pursuing this, and something that you really should look into it. Secondly, the AI machine learning also drive a lot of new requirements for storage and memory. There's a lot of disruptive technology is starting to happen. Clearly, the hyperscale guy are driving the non-volatile memory, either the scale out or controller or over the fiber. And then the other part is also the memory. We all know the flash, the DRAM. There's a lot of more new innovation needed. So a couple of new startups are starting to excitingly looking at in the quasi-volatile area, and then some of the speed performance that the AI machine learning and the hyperscale looking for. And there's something that's going to be very disruptive in terms of this big memory business. And then the other part I mentioned earlier, the infrastructure for the data center, there will be more scale out in terms of programmable, scale out of storage and network. And that over time going to be changing the control plane and data plane to drive some of new architecture changes. So that's something that's going to be very exciting unfold in front of us because of AI, machine learning, big data analytics, going to drive some of the changes that semiconductor innovation needed. And then in my space of looking at what are the key drivers in terms of semiconductor growth, one I mentioned earlier, domain-specific computing. The other part I see a big trend happening is the system company and the service provider are starting to vertically integrate it. So they are starting to quietly building up their silicon capability so that they can drive some of the application, some of the performance required to differentiate their value. And then the other part is a lot of new startup. To be candid with you, last 8 years, I don't see a lot of my VC friends investing in semiconductor. I kind of a loner, the diehard investing in semiconductor. But lately, I'm starting to see some venture firm starting to follow me and then starting to invest because of this AI machine learning driving some of the innovation and the new requirement. And then some of the tier one venture firms starting to follow me and then starting to invest. I really welcome them because sometimes to be too lonely is tough. When you want to raise Series B and C and D, I had to reach out to the corporation to join me instead of the VC guy. And so we're delighted to have some of the brothers and sisters to join me. And then the other part that I'm starting to see a lot of changes is a big industrial group starting to look at how to build the silicon. They're approaching me because I'm a CEO of Cadence Design. And not only the automotive guy, the aerospace defense player. I just named one of them because it's a public now. Northrop Grumman become a very important customer for me. And I'm meeting with their CEO and CTO frequently and try to explore how can we drive some of the silicon development, helping them to become more effective in the defense and aerospace related area. And then, of course, the medical related area going to be a very exciting opportunity using AI machine learning. On the right-hand side of the slide, you can see that people talking about Moore's law is dead. It's not quite dead, and it's just slowing down. And you can see that 7 nanometer and below is 34.5% CAGR. And then to be candid with you, most of my Cadence team are working on the 3 and 5 nanometer. And so something that is really exciting, driving, continue the Moore's law. And meanwhile, a lot of 40, 50 mixed signal still continue to grow and in volume. And then on just very briefly about the Cadence activity. In the past, we are the EDA player, and then we add on the IP business, and building up the IP for building up SoC is a little bit like Lego. You're picking up a lot of IP, and you build the SoC. And then now we're starting to move into a system innovation, and that is really moving into system analysis and also embedded security and safety. And we just make a 16% ownership into to Green Hill Software. And we're delighted to invest in the Vido, and the two founders is here in terms of security for IoT. And then now we're starting to move up in we call it the pervasive intelligence, that's using AI applying into our tool to optimize the performance, and also helping our AI machine learning startup company to drive the methodology to help them design even faster and quicker. And then some of the vertical we focus on, the cloud, automotive, aerospace, and medical, beside the mobile, and also include the industrial application. And we're delighted we are partnering with DARPA, and in terms of this, we call it the Electronic Resurgence Initiative, and so that can drive more innovation, and then using the AI machine learning to drive the design flow to help to drive the industry. We're delighted Carnegie Mellon University and also NVIDIA partner with us on this effort of 4 years program with the DARPA and then driving this AI proliferations. And just a little bit touch on this opportunity I see, basically from IoT collecting data to the edge, instead of a dumb edge, become an intelligent edge, and then all the way to the scale out of the cloud infrastructure player. And so along the way, the investment thesis, and then these are the company I heavily involved and funded. The one in the square red is basically is an Israel company and startup that we're delighted to be part of. And in terms of collecting data like the WRVI, this is a 3D sensor. We are delighted to be involved. And then same thing on the edge and intelligent edge. We have a couple of companies we back and then to really scale out the storage and network. And then on the hyperscale side, we are delighted to be a partner with Wika. And then also in the earlier day, we invest in Annapurna Lab. We sold to Amazon. And clearly, we have a couple of really good companies to really driving, and include one of them. I also invest Excite, and doing the very hyper-connected speed for the Ethernet switch for the hyperscale guys. So this is a lot of innovation, and Israel is really good at it, and we're delighted to participate and support some of the emerging one. And then the other part I'm heavily investing is AI machine learning. I invest total 35 company, and AI is not just a processor in the middle. There's a lot of different applications. I'm going to just pick one that beside the vision that is very obvious is the healthcare medical. And I know Greg going to speak a lot more about that. I just want to touch on two that I'm very passionate about, Berkeley Lights. And this is doing the machine that can parallelly process T-cell genomic sequencing growth, and then really try to help doing the immunotherapy that is for the advanced cancer, and how to use that machine and using the AI, and then to address, we call it the patient-specific medicine. It's not just one drug can cure all. Like cancer, they have many types, and then different person, the patient, they respond differently. And so that AI machine learning play a big role in it. The other one I'm very excited is a startup, actually from Stanford, Professor Lee, and this called Elvis, using the AI machine learning for treating the epilepsy, Parkinson, and mental illness, using the EEG map, and then do the matching and also diagnose, and instead of using eyeball to make a judgment call, that's a lot more accurate. And so in all, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think medical and healthcare are going to be one big area, beside the automotive, beside the cloud, and I think going to be exciting to hear from Greg, in terms of what are the new development, new application can be. So a couple of things I just want to highlight. This is, I love to come here. I wish I can come here every month, but I can only do 3 or 4 times a year. These are some of the current investment I make, and with my partner, Ronnie Heffert, somewhere here. He and I, we are a good team working together for the 25 years together. And then the other part, some of the older investment we make, like Mellanox, we just sold to NVIDIA, and then Annapurna Lab to, clearly our friend at Amazon for their processor, the requirement, and also for Sony, the Altera that we sold to them. So I think it's a great company, a great startup in Israel that I'd love to come here more often. A lot to learn from all of you. And then just to summarize my speech, clearly if you forget everything, AI is big, and you should be involved. And then how to apply the data that you collect to make better world. And then secondly, general purpose CPU, GPU will continue to do well, but there's a new class coming up called domain-specific processing. And then the other part is the high-speed connectivity, SerDes, and the internet switch going to be scaled out big time. And then the AI for the edge and the industrial IoT going to be huge. With that, thank you so much to be here.